All right, guys, so you got to talk about an interview that I think is a good example, a rare example of good, honest journalism in legacy media. And it just so happens to take place on Fox News in this interview between Liz Cheney and Bret Baier, who is going to confront Liz Cheney on the fact that she is silent on the authoritarianism and the dictator-like tendencies of the Biden administration, okay? Many of these tendencies we have outlined here on this channel. We've talked endlessly about how if you're really worried about the threat to our so-called democracy, you actually really should be worried about the Biden administration and the Democrats and what they're doing. But yet, people like Liz Cheney, who is a democracy crusader, has nothing to say about Biden, has nothing to say about Democrats when it comes to the threat that they pose against our so-called democracy, but won't shut the hell up, right, about Trump and the alleged threat that he poses to our so-called democracy. She's actually going to get called out about her hypocrisy on this issue. And why doesn't she ever criticize Biden the same way that she's criticizing Trump, especially on this issue of democracy? So I want to get into this, and I want to let you guys know that the thesis of this video is basically something I've been arguing for the longest time when it comes to my videos on people like Liz Cheney, the Adam Kinzingers, the Alyssa Ferry Griffins of the world, the never Trumpers who used to love Trump, right? Now they're never Trump. Why I don't respect them? I don't respect them because what they're doing is not grounded in any type of principle, okay? They're not standing up for some greater good, right? They're not pushing back against authoritarianism. What they're doing is that they're taking advantage of the fact that if you are a Republican and you come out against Trump, you will still be invited to the club, right? You will still be welcome on the mainstream liberal media platforms, and you won't be exiled from the establishment parties in DC, right? Because that's what this is about, right? It's one big club in DC, and Trump supporters ain't in it, right? So if you are a Trump supporter in the Republican Party, if you don't speak out against him, you're not welcome to the establishment parties and circles that people like Liz Cheney desperately want to be a part of. And also on top of that, this is one big grift, right? And this interview right here is going to demonstrate my point, because her response to Bret Baier calling her out for her hypocrisy is exactly what you would expect. So let's get into it.
Read a section, a quote from your book, Oath and Honor. Today, none of us can tell if the story of January 6th is nearing its end or is only just beginning. We may have darker chapters ahead. Trump has told us that he thinks the Constitution can and should be suspended when necessary, that what happened on January 6th was justified, that in a second Trump presidency he would seek retribution, and much more. He knows judicial rulings have force only if the executive branch enforces them, so he won't. You're fearful of a second Trump presidency.
I am. I think that, we know what he will do. He's already done it. We saw what he did after the 2020 election, obviously what he did to try to seize power in 2020, and of course on January 6th. And he tells us every day. And if you look at the steps that he would have to take in terms of simply refusing to enforce court orders or comply with court orders with which he disagrees.
Oh, you mean the same thing that Biden does, right? When he disagrees with the Supreme Court, he just says, screw him, I'm going to move forward with it anyways, right? Again, it's just so funny because all these things that she's naming are things that Biden has done or either is actively trying to do, but yet she's silent on that. She doesn't have anything to say about it. But she wants to sit around and talk about January 6th all day and what Trump did after January 6th. I'm saying this in quotations because I don't know what Trump did after January. What did Trump do after January 6th? He took his ball and he went home, right? He said, look, I don't feel like the election was fair, but I'm still going to leave the White House, right? Again, a real dictator, okay, a real so-called threat to democracy would have said, you know what? I'm not leaving. I'm going to take unilateral control of the military. I'm declaring martial law and I'm not leaving. You're going to have to kill me. But that's not what he did, right? He took his ball and he went home. He left, which tells you everything you need to know about Trump and whether or not he actually is built to be a dictator. He's actually not built to be a dictator. I'm telling you, because on multiple occasions, he just chose not to. And I'm not saying that as if that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that because it's just funny how they keep trying to accuse the guy of being a dictator when he's clearly shown that he's not. If he wanted to be a dictator, the best time to be a dictator was during a pandemic, especially when the pandemic first began. In fact, Trump has been criticized for not being a dictator enough during the pandemic, right? Because a lot of people disagree with the fact that he allowed Democrats to run their own states and decide their own policies in regards to how they wanted to take care of COVID, right? Even though it was hurting him politically. The fact that Democrats had their states closed down and that the economy was bad and that things weren't going well because Democrats had closed down their states. If Trump was really a dictator, he could have said, no, you have to open up your state. I'm not going to allow you to close down your state. I'm going to use my authority as president of the United States to force you to open up your state. But that's not what he did, right? He gave the governors the option, even though they turn around and blame every death that happens in their state, whether it was lockdown or not, they turn around and blame it on Trump. Even though Trump allowed them to lock down their state, they say, oh, it was Trump's fault. Amazing. I'm just saying, Trump had plenty of opportunities to be a dictator. He chose not to, which tells you that he's not built to be a big dictator. He's actually really not built to be a dictator. And I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. It's actually a good thing.
Putting people in key positions as Attorney General, for example, or as head of OLC, unethical lawyers who would help him, frankly, blow through many of the guardrails of our Constitution. I think it's a very real concern that he would take steps very quickly that would unravel the rule of law. Again,
where's all this when it comes to Biden's censorship of free speech, right? Biden weaponizing the government to try to censor free speech online, right? To try to blow through our constitutional guardrails, like the First Amendment. Again, where's the criticism? There are none. She doesn't have anything to say about it. But again, she just goes on and on and on about Trump, right? On and on and on about Trump.
This is the Wall Street Journal. This is not a MAGA, op-ed here. And they say Trump as dictator is a classic case of projection. Abuse executive power, ignore the law, run roughshod over individual liberties, retaliate against political opponents. Mr. Biden and his allies have done exactly what they warned Mr. Trump will do if he returns to the White House. Unlike Mr. Biden, however, Mr. Trump would have to contend with a hostile media and a federal bureaucracy that would be throwing pots, pans, and candlesticks at him at every step.
Facts. Gold star for Bret Baier, right? Gold star for Bret Baier. Because I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for somebody to ask Liz Cheney, where is all the smoke for the Biden administration who's literally doing all the things that you are boohoo whining and crying about when it comes to Trump? But see, here's the kicker, right? This is just one part of it. The fact that she never addresses it tells you that this is not about principles. This is not a principle stance at all. And that is why I say I don't respect these people. I don't respect them in their standing up for democracy, their principled stance, because it's not principled. And I knew it wasn't principled from day one. The reason why I know it's not principled is because these people aren't presenting an alternative to Trump with their own vision. They're just spending time talking shit about Trump and not actually presenting a different direction or an alternative vision for the Republican Party. None of these people are. Chris Christie's not, okay? Liz Cheney's not. None of these people who are literally, their whole identity is built around hating Trump are presenting an alternative vision for the Republican Party outside of where the Republican Party came from, which is why Trump was elected in the first place, right? People like Liz Cheney and her neocon ideology gave rise to Trump, right? That is what allowed Trump to become a popular figure within the Republican Party in the first place. So again, the focus is not trying to shift the party in another direction. No, the focus is trying to get the party back to where it was before Trump. But again, it's not about any principles. Because again, if she was so concerned about authoritarianism and the so-called threat to democracy, she'd be attacking Biden. But I'm going to tell you why she's not attacking Biden. This is just one part of it. Here's the second part.
Well, I think they're wrong. I think if you look at, we don't have to guess about what next President Trump would do because he did it before. And he would not have around him the people that were around him, the people, frankly, that the country will hear from as his trial moves forward, who were all his appointees, people that he appointed to the White House counsel's office, the Department of Justice, his own family, people that told him on January 6th, as you and I were talking that day, actually, that he needed to tell the mob to go home. People who told him that what he was doing was illegal. Those people won't be around him. And you know, the rulings of our courts are fundamental to who we are as a constitutional republic. If a president doesn't enforce those rulings, they don't have weight.
Right. But what about the point it made in this op-ed, specifically, and I understand what you're saying about the former president, what you feel about what would happen, but you...
Again, shout out to Bret Baier. He gets a gold star. Because what did Liz Cheney just do? She didn't really address the substance of the article. She just said, well, I think they're wrong, and here's all the reasons why Trump is bad, while not addressing any of the criticisms of Biden and the concrete examples of the overt authoritarianism from the Biden administration. Nah, I think they're wrong. Here's why Trump is terrible. But she doesn't actually address the part about Biden, right? She doesn't address that.
You haven't been vocal, but you haven't
right.
been vocal about President Biden when, like, executive orders to cancel student loan, ban evictions,
that's a very different
mandate COVID vaccines.
It's very different to ignore the Supreme Court when it comes to student loan debt relief. He also did it with the rent moratorium as well, too. On multiple occasions, Biden said, screw the Supreme Court. I'm the supreme law of the land, right? On multiple occasions. Okay, so again, you have multiple examples lined up right here of overt authoritarianism from Biden. Oh, I don't think it's the same thing, right? Oh, it's not, Liz. It's not the same thing. Wait. So when the Democrats canceled the primary down there in Florida, where they literally just canceling elections, oh, that's not a threat to democracy, Liz? Because again, imagine if imagine if the Republican Party canceled a whole state election. In a swing state, by the way, right? I'm not sure if you can call Florida a swing state anymore, but regardless, still. Imagine if they just said, you know what, we're just going to cancel a whole election, right? And we're going to declare Trump the winner by default because we want Trump to be the nominee. She'd be screaming at the top of her lungs. She'd be losing her mind. Democrats do that crickets, right? Ain't got nothing to say. Don't nobody got nothing to say about that. CNN ain't got nothing to say about it. MSNBC ain't got nothing to say about it. None of these democracy crusaders have anything to say about Democrats canceling elections. Straight up. The most anti-democratic thing I can think of for a party to do, they do, and they crickets, silence, nothing, right? Nothing. But yet they're warning about what Trump might do, even though Trump has already proved that he's not willing to do the things that they claim that he might do. Amazing stuff.
Well, here's a list.
I think it's a very different
After
thing.
the SCOTUS
Are
ruling...
you going to let me answer the question?
Yeah, I am.
Though?
Just let me list them. After the SCOTUS ruled against it, he still used regulatory means to write off, the student debt, wall off 1.5 million acres of land for fossil fuel. What this basically is saying is that there are things that have been done outside of the rule of federal courts that you haven't weighed in on.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's true that I haven't weighed in on those. And I think a lot of those, if you look at the kinds of things that he's done with respect, for example, to energy policy, with respect to setting aside lands across the West, I've been very vocal that I think those policies are wrong. It's very...
Okay, but what about everything else, right? And you haven't been very vocal about it. You haven't been very vocal about it at all. And I'm going to tell you the reason why she hasn't been very vocal about it. Because if she actually starts coming out here and calling out the Biden administration, right? Actually trying to hold Biden to the same standard that she's trying to hold Trump. Her whole grift falls apart. Her money bubble bursts, right? It bursts because she will never be invited on MSNBC. She will never be invited on CNN. She will never be invited on any of these platforms where she's currently trying to peddle her silly little book, right? She would never get invited. She wouldn't. It's to say, again, you ever notice how these people, whether it's Kinzinger, Chris Christie, right, Liz Cheney, Alyssa Farrah Griffin, you notice how none of these people are ever invited to talk about what they believe, right? What they believe in regards to policy or where the direction of this country should be headed outside of Trump. The only reason these people are ever platformed on these mainstream outlets is simply because they want them to trash Trump. So Liz Cheney is smart enough to know that if she starts going on these platforms and she starts actually holding Biden to the same standard that she's holding Trump, all of a sudden, now, according to Democrat viewers, oh, wait, You mean to tell me that Biden's been ignoring court orders? Biden's been canceling elections? Biden's been trying to overrun the guardrails of the Constitution by taking away people's First Amendment rights, right? Through censorship on the internet? All these things they accuse Trump of doing, Biden's doing. Yeah, that's a threat to the narrative. And they're not going to allow that. They're not going to allow Liz Cheney to come on their network and start actually really taking a principled stance, right? Which is why she won't do it. That's why she won't do it. She ain't got nothing to say about it. Because if she says something about it, if she actually calls out Biden for the things she's calling out Trump for, she has no usefulness. She remains irrelevant. She doesn't get on TV. She can't sell a book. All this is about money. 100%. And this is why I say I don't respect these people. It's not about them hating Trump. I think that it's okay and fine not to support Trump as a Republican. If you don't want to, I'm not mad. I don't get mad at DeSantis supporters for supporting DeSantis. Okay? Or Nikki Haley supporters for supporting Nikki. Actually, no, I don't know. Nikki Haley's a different one. But I'm just saying. I don't get mad at it. I'm not upset. But don't come out here and try to tell me you're taking a principled stance against Trump when you're not holding the opposition parties to the same standard because you want to remain a part of the club, because you want to keep making money peddling your silly book on their networks. You want to remain part of the conversation. Because at that point, you're not being principled anymore. You're just grifting, right? That's what's happening. This is not a principled thing anymore. This is, oh, well, I'm just trying to make some money type of thing, right? That's all it is. It's more about her personal vendetta against Trump and money, more so than it's about any type of principled stance or anything like that. And this right here, this interview is very telling. Very
different from a president. And look, you wrote a book about George Washington. The last chapter of your book is called The Gift of a Peaceful Transition of Power. That is what we're talking about.
Yeah, but this is not about me.
That's right, but that's a very important concept. Let me finish my answer, because every single president, Republican and Democrat, since George Washington, has ensured the peaceful transition of power.
And Trump did that too, right? Trump peacefully transitioned his way out of the White House and let Biden take over. That tradition has not been broken, which again is another reason why these people, trying to act like Trump is going to be some authoritarian dictator is silly, because he had plenty of opportunities to do it and he didn't do it.
Donald Trump tried to seize power. So we can disagree with Biden policies, but the fact that he tried to seize power, the fact that he ignored the rulings of 61 courts, the fact that he ignored his own attorney general, his own White House counsel, who told him what he was saying about the election was false. It wasn't true. His claims were false, and he went out and made them anyway, knowing that. The extent to which while a violent mob was assaulting the Capitol, he wouldn't tell them to leave. Instead, he tweeted against his own vice president, and he poured fuel on the flames. Those are lines that can't be crossed. And look, this isn't about policy. I voted with Donald Trump 93% of the time. This is about the nation. It's about the republic. It's about the Constitution.
And we've covered all elements of January 6th, and I had an interview with the former president where I told him that he did not win the election. That said, he's winning this election.
That's right.
Yeah, he is winning. And again, for her, it's about a personal vendetta, right? It's about keeping that money flowing in. It's about still getting that invite to them establishment liberal DC parties where all these politicians hang out and allegedly do drugs and maybe fall on each other, right? I'm just saying, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. It ain't about no principled stance for, standing up for democracy or protecting election. It ain't about any of that stuff. It's a personal vendetta and a grift. And this is why I don't respect these people. This is why I don't respect them. This is why I think that they're some of the worst people in the Republican Party, because they're pretending to stand on something that they're not standing on. And I think that's the worst. I think that is absolutely worse. That's the same exact type of behavior that they are speaking against, that they claim they're fighting against. They're exhibiting that type of behavior by pretending like they're taking some type of principled stance against Trump when it's not. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.